when this story that I'm about to tell you took place, I was like borderline Republican. Like I was really uptight. I was like, legalize marijuana, my ass. Kill anyone who has ever been stoned. So I was uptight. And one day, I was a sophomore in college, and I worked at Dunkin' Donuts. It was summer. I worked at Dunkin' Donuts, because that's what good little Republicans do. I'm not really a Republican now. So I worked at Dunkin' Donuts, and I would work the late night shift, and so I'd get up at like noon every day. So this one day I got up, and I'm like eating my Lucky Charms, and I'm real dazed and confused, and I'm wearing my SpongeBob PJs, and I'm watching the noon news, and I hear this like helicopter. And it's like, that's my helicopter noise. And I'm like, what? Why are they flying so low over my house? And I'm sitting there, and then I hear on the door, and I'm like, they'll go away. I'll just ignore them, they'll go away. So they keep, so I'm like, just leave it at the door! Thinking it's you, yes I know. Leave it at the door! You know, they keep, so I go to the door, and I'm like, can I help you? My eyes are barely open. Again, it's noon, so it's early for me. And I'm eating my Lucky Charms. And it's this cop. It's two cops. And behind them, let me back this up. My parents live, I was at my parents' house at the time. They live on about 10 acres. And it's like a big open field, but then like surrounding that open field, it's like thick, dense forest. And so the cop's like, do you live here? And I'm like, what? Like, yeah, I'm here. And he's like, do you own this house, or are you just a squatter? And I'm like, no, I live here. And he's like, so you're a squatter? And I'm like, no, I don't pay the mortgage myself, but like I'm here. And he's like, son of a bitch. So I'm like, looking, I'm like, what's happening? And behind them, I see these guys, like a group, like maybe 6 guys in army fatigues and machetes. And they're like marching into the woods, and I'm like, why are they going in the woods? It's such a dense wooded area, be careful. And it's the good and the bad cop up here with me. And the bad cop is like, we've been flying over your yard. We have a helicopter that's equipped with, you know, like infrared things. And we found 137 marijuana plants over there in those woods. And I'm like, this is a joke. I'm like, no, someone's playing a joke. And I like chuckle. And he's like, you find that funny? Because I don't. I'm like, So I'm still thinking it's a joke. And he has a walkie-talkie on his hip. And it's like, Trooper Cruz, we need you to come back here. You're not going to believe this. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And it's like, this is Trooper Cruz. I'll be right back. You stay put. You stay put. I'm going to have my partner here. Keep an eye on you. You better not run. And I'm like, oh, man. And the cop is there with me. And he's like, hey, don't worry. No, don't cry. It's going to be okay. And I'm like, well, how long do you go to jail for this? like 1 to 3 years is my guess. It's not a big deal. And, you know, I'll just go and I'll be really well behaved and I'll get 1 year and they'll let me out early. I won't be like a criminal, like I won't come out like cornrows and tattoos. And he's like, well, it's actually 10 to 15 years. And I was like, no, that I can't come back from that. They're going to do things in prison because they're going to make me do things that I want to. And so, and he's like, all right, do you want to like change into some reasonable attire before we take you? And I was like, can I do that? And he's like, yeah, go ahead, but you know what? Don't try anything, because he'll get you. So I'm like, all right, I'll be right back. I run upstairs. Well, I like just throw open my bedroom door, and I'm like, what do I wear? So I'm like, all right, I'll put on jeans, and my blondes have more fun t-shirt. That's nice. And so then I put this on, right? And I think to myself, how can I run? Like, what is my best way to leave the country? So I immediately think back to 6th grade when my Aunt Kitty, who's very responsible, she gave everybody a fire escape ladder that latches onto your window and you can climb down. So I'm like, that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to take the ladder. It's under my bed. They won't see me. I'll just climb out, land on the deck, jump off the deck, run up on the highway next to the house, and hitchhike to Canada. I'm done. I'm fine. So I open my blind, I look back, and there's cop cars surrounding the entire house. They have me surrounded. There's no way I can leave. And I'm just thinking, shit, I'm going to jail for 10 to 15 years. I will probably die before I get parole. So I'm like, all right, I'll just do it. I don't care, I'll just do it. I'll be like a real like hard ass when I come out. I'll work at like McDonald's and be like, what the fuck do you want? Boy, shut up. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go down there and I'm gonna cry. And I'm gonna keep crying until they're like, we don't even want to take you anymore. I call my mom, and I'm like, Mom, and she's like, what? I'm like, the DEA is here, and they're taking me, there's marijuana in your cupboard. I hang up the phone, and I go out, and I just start crying, like, uncontrollably, like, and these cops are like, they're just looking at me like, oh my God. And like I see a guy and he's got a DEA jacket on, and I'm like, oh, this just keeps getting worse. So then the cop says, listen, they called me back there because I can't take you based on a technicality. And he's like all pissed off and bothered they can't take me. And I'm like, what is it? Why can't you take me now? And he's like, well, the crops have to be diagonal. The crops have to be adjacent to your house, and there has to be a clear path from your house to the plants. And it's a diagonal path, and there's actually no path at all. So I'm like, thank God. And so, like, I just saw like all these guys that had gone into the woods with their like fatigues on and their machetes. They were like coming out like huge like armfuls of weed plants. They just put them in the back of this white van and drove off. And later that night, my mom came home and she was like, I don't want to talk to this trooper Cruz. I'm going to call him at the police station. I'm going to give him a piece of my mind because he cannot talk to you like that. So she calls him and she's like, how dare you come to my daughter's house? Well, it's really my house. She's just a squatter here. Yell at her and take her away. I tried to take her away. And so, he's like, all right, that's fine, I'm sorry. And she's like, well, what do you do with all that weed? And he's like, oh, we just burn it. But that was the day that I decided I think that we should legalize marijuana in America. And I changed my voter registration card. And that's my story.